What if the biggest thing holding you back right now wasn't your effort, your discipline, or the strategy, but the way you think? Because a lot of people are doing the work, but they still feel stuck. And later in this episode, my guest is going to share the mindset shift and completely change how he approached discipline and freedom. Today, I'm joined with Brett Scott, a mindset coach who works with people at that exact point where effort is high, but progress feels slow. Brett helps individuals break through internal limits, build discipline that actually lasts, and create real freedom in how they live and work. In this conversation, we're unpacking what mindset really means and why discipline isn't about motivation and how small internal shifts can create that massive external change. Cool. Welcome to the podcast, Brett.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So how did you get into mindset coaching? What led to starting that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And look, the thing that I love about my own journey is that the work I do, as much as I've studied and continue to study, it all began because I recognized that I was achieving great success throughout my life. At the time, I was 43, and I recognized there was a pattern. Every time I get to a decent level of success, I'd find a way to, if I use the F word, no, just find a way to step it up. And so I realized that there's something I'm not seeing. And one of my first mentors was the late, great Bob Proctor. And Bob Proctor was a Canadian success mindset coach. He is best known for one of the, you might say, the leads within the movie The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. And so I saw that movie back in 2006. I'd followed Bob for 13 years. And then finally, I got to the stage where enough was enough. And I said, I've got to figure out what is this thing that I'm missing. That's how I started. Originally, when I first started the journey, it was really just about me. It's just about me breaking through. And then I realized, okay, this is just too good for me to use on myself. I realized that it's a calling for me. And so that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good. Yeah, cool. So what patterns did you start noticing in people who felt stuck? Finding the clients, do they come to you, or do you notice things and, reach out to them? And
It's a great question. Another great one. No, because when I first started, it was me engaging a lot on social media. The landscape of Facebook, as an example, was very different back in 2019, 2018, 2019. It was a great pool. It was like people, it was new to people.
everybody loved it.
Yeah, they loved it. Facebook Live, you had Facebook groups, which we still do have, but I was I found this idea about if I engage in these groups and if I put a message out there and people engage on that or people comment on that, then I would comment on their comment. And so it was pretty much an organic way of me fishing, you might say, fishing for clients. And so I'd ask the right question, which would give them the ability to give me the right answer. And then from that point, I would lead them down the road towards becoming a client. Whereas more so these days, I don't do that anymore. What I do now is I do social media, as you know,
Yeah.
but I put my messages out there. I do it with no intention to necessarily find clients. And organically, in a different way, people come to me. And part of that might be because I have a lot of credibility, won a lot of awards. I've got TED Talk. I've got, I've got the runs on the board. And so I guess people trust me. And as you know, how we met, I'm an MC now, which was never part of the plan. But speaking is a big part of what I do.
Yeah,
And
massive.
yeah. And so doing the MC role, even though it's not necessarily mindset, although I've got an idea to make it more mindset, it actually has enabled me to connect with a wider group of people. And so through that, I've actually met a lot of people who've become clients as well.
Yeah. And that's the biggest part, is the networking in any creative industry, in any industry, actually. It's all about networking, about creating those real deep relationships with people. And even if, say, you weren't my client, you might know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and it's just a snowball effect.
You're spot on. Yeah. It's interesting you're mentioning about networking. I'm an MC for a very boutique, awesome networking group called Lamara. And it was meant to be a one-off, but it went so well that Gordana said, "Hey, do you want to do this ongoing?" So now I'm like the main MC for that, which is great. But the one thing that I recognized along the journey, in not only trying to find clients for myself, I recognized that I would know you and I would say, "Oh, this person might need services that you're doing." And so I got very good at connecting people. And so I got really well known for being a connector.
And you've connected me with a lot of people. Manzillo, who actually provided this, Akil, yeah, he's awesome. Amazing, amazing person.
He asked me today, "Oh, how did your interview with Chloe go?" And I said, "No, it's happening."
Yeah, today, yeah. To be fair, I told him it was last week. Never, yeah, fell through. But yeah, why do you feel like so many people chase freedom the wrong way?
Well, I think it's conditioning is the first part. I think most people have a fixed mindset. So
100%.
yeah, we're all brought up a certain way, and depending on your parents and depending on the people that you surround yourself with, you've got certain conditioning, and the conditioning actually happens at a young age for all of us. So from the age of 3 to 7, our subconscious mind is almost completely open, and our conscious mind hasn't yet formed. And so we're a dumping ground for information, and we store that as beliefs. And those beliefs we carry through until we become more mature. And then I think we have to get to a stage where we finally start to unblock ourselves and start to open up open up the ability to understand things differently and not think you've got the answer. Oh, no, this is how it works. So the more open-minded we become, the greater ability we have to actually learn, the greater ability we have to make new decisions, the greater ability we have to get new opportunities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And in creating that open mindset and not being so fixed, what are some strategies that you would give the audience listening to do? Because I know for me, my dad has been huge on me reading, and not just for, the mindset thing, but, for speaking, for vocabulary, for mindset, for seeing new perspectives that aren't just from the way I grew up.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, I've met your dad, and I know he has that sort of mindset, and yeah, and it's good. Yeah, and look, most families, and I'm generalizing, but I think most families don't have that. I didn't have that growing up. Although, in saying that, my mum started to become more open minded and aware in a spiritual sense. And so I got some spiritual, you might say, beliefs that were built in from a young age, from 14 to 18. But the advice I would give the audience that are listening, I would say to them, instead of, and it's not about making big change straight away, it's about having a little shift. And so if you just pick up on the fact that, each time, like it's a pattern. So each time you're saying, no, no, this is how it's done, and yet you're not getting to where you want to go, ask yourself, am I stuck in my old way of thinking? And could there be a new way that I could think or a new understanding that I could get that would enable me to shift and, most importantly, enable me to get this new result? Yeah, that's what I would think.
Yeah, and do you think the people that are surrounded by you, your friends, your family, did they play a huge part in not calling you out, but maybe saying, "Hey, you're thinking about it in a negative sense. Let's think about it this way."
No.
Yeah.
No, and I say no because it's like my mum. My mum's always been a great support and a great person to give me ideas and certainly guidance. But as she would tell you if she was here, she has had a lot of changes, a lot of opening of her mind since I've been doing this work. And when I first started, I've had a lot of careers. And so when I first started, I know my mum was also like, oh, is this going to be another one of those another one of those careers where you get to a certain level and then you think, no, it's not for me. So when she saw the changes that happened within me and externally in such a short space of time, she knew very quickly that this was very different.
Yeah.
And so when I actually met Bob Proctor on a Zoom call, and when I met him, my mum got to meet him as well. And, he said to me at the end of that Zoom call, he said, in the whole time that I've done this work, which was at that time, I think it was 58 years of doing the work, he said, and I know you know it's a long time, he said, you know, I've never met anyone like you that's more determined to do the work that you're about to do. And I said, yes. And I was like, oh, that's not very humble. But he said, the only question I've got for you is it going to be with us? And so that was the turning point for me, going from, I was supporting my first coach. So I actually hired a high level coach who was actually in the inner circle of Bob Proctor's network. I became her right hand man. Then I got to a point where we just weren't seeing eye to eye on how to actually look after her affiliates. And so I reached out to head office of Bob Proctor, and yeah, without giving you the long-winded story, that's how I ended up meeting Bob, and he, yeah, basically said, you need to come and do the work as the coach. And it was, for me at that particular point, I remember I was sick in the stomach, you know, making that big decision to do this role. And it was a big investment too. It was about 45,000 Australian dollars. And so, yeah, I didn't take it lightly. And however, I knew that he would not lie to me. Like, I knew that Bob would not just say some fluffy stuff to make me feel good. And so within that, I made the decision. After I made the decision, it was like, oh my gosh, everything started to flow, you know. And then as you're asking the questions about clients, yeah, I just came up with creative ways of being able to find new people, and it's evolved over time. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So, what does a poor mindset actually cost to people long term?
Well, I mean, there's different variations of a poor mindset, but if you're talking about a poor mindset towards being successful or having a life of freedom, I would say that one, it costs time, but two, what I have seen happen, and it happened for me as well, is and it's like we're not always consciously aware that our poor mindset is getting us shitty results. But what ends up happening is, because you're not enjoying life to the degree that you'd like to, you hit the bottle, or you hit the something else, or you do things which are numbing how you actually feel. And so a lot of people in life, party hard and drink and do whatever they do, not because they're necessarily bad or doing the wrong thing. It's because they're hurting inside. So
Yeah.
I feel like the best way to describe it is our higher self, or our inner self, or our soul knows what we should be doing, but we've also got a mind that's in this physical realm trying to figure out how to live life. And so until we get that new awareness, or even we might get the awareness, but if we don't accept it, to change our poor mindset, then the likelihood is we're just going to keep getting the same results, keep repeating. And then because we keep repeating, we think, well, I can't seem to make my life work. And so they keep drinking or doing other things. Yeah. Do you think? Have you seen that?
I agree. When we bring clients on, when we first have our consultation, we're huge, and it's something that's very prevalent in all of our meetings about the CEO and the team having a growth mindset, because you transform and you change so much, and the business changes so much in the time that we work with people. Like, that first 6 months is a huge transformation period. So we tell our clients, when you're coming on, you need to understand that when we're going through this business change, you as a person are going to grow and you're going to change so much in that time as well. And you need to be open to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're 100% correct. If, especially in a company, if the CEO or the general manager or whoever's running the business, if they're not prepared to go through a personal change or a personal shift, then the likelihood is they'll keep repeating, or they might take on board some of the ideas, but they won't follow through. And then they go back to doing the way they did it before. And then they don't get the results, and then they blame you. So I love that you're pre-framing that from the start, because within the work that I do, it's like success mindset or freedom coaching. It's, yes, people like, I focus on what you want. So what do you want? You want to have, I don't want to work as many hours. I want to have time to go and travel. I want to spend more time with my partner or my kids. And that's the outcome. But there's the way to get to the outcome is by figuring out what's not working within you.
Yeah.
So it's all about us. It's all about the individual. Yes, I love that you're doing that.
It's very interesting about how you said, like, about inside you, because that's also, I guess, when we look at it from a business perspective, it's also what's happening inside the business. So it goes hand in hand, the personal growth with the business growth.
Yeah,
Mm.
100%. Yeah, and, at the end of the day, as you know in business, if someone's not prepared to be transparent or to give you all the information, it's also really hard for you to then guide the right way as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to have that whole holistic approach to everything in life.
Yeah,
Mm.
totally agree.
For the listeners that are listening, I want you to sit back and say to yourself, where do you see yourself pulling back instead of leaning in? And really take on board everything, that Brett's saying, because we have a very powerful person speaking on our podcast today. So I'd love for you to, implement some of the things that Brett is saying, and over the weeks, over the months, see how you are changing in yourself and how you are growing.
I'd also add to that and say, now that you've said that, I will give some more tips. So make sure you hang in. So, because
Yeah.
I promise you, I'll give you some more things
Just
which are
started.
really tangible. I'll think of some simple ideas that you can, like Chloe's asking, write down and test them out. I've got some tips or some tools, I should say, that you can test over even a week. Rather than thinking I've got to do it for a month or 90 days, which is where you get change. But even just to test it to see how do I feel after a week, after 7 days, in being disciplined with the habitual pattern of doing that.
Yeah, that'll be really beneficial, I think, for the listeners. Yeah.
So when we get there, I'll get
Hang in. Awesome. So, why do you feel that discipline is a form of self-respect?
Mm,
It's a big question.
it is. Well, discipline is self-love.
Agreed.
Yeah,
100%.
discipline is self-love. So, you know, the old version of me used to think discipline was a dirty word, or, it was scary. And that's because there was so much abuse that I was giving myself. I was abusing a version of myself, not knowingly, but unconsciously, because I wasn't prepared to be truthful with myself, and really look at what's going on. Look at not just my results, but look at what's happening in my world and figure out, well, what are the outcomes that I'm not happy with? What are the behaviors that I'm doing that are actually leading into me getting those outcomes? And where does that stem from? What's the root cause of that, which is our belief? And so discipline, what it actually does is it is a form of self-love, because you're saying, well, why do you do anything that is, and with discipline, let's say it's a habit, right? Why do we create a habit for anything? Because we've got a reason. There's a reason why, not just because, oh, I guess that's what everyone else is doing, because you're probably not going to stick to that discipline. But if you've got a reason why, let's say, you're 10 kilos overweight and you really want to lose that weight and you want to get tighter and fitter, tighter. You want to get toned,
Yeah.
not tighter.
I know.
Well, tighter skin, I don't know. But you want to get toned and fit. And so there's a reason why. And so within that, if you know that you have bad discipline or you tried it before, well, don't do it the same way. Well, what could I do? I might get a personal trainer, even if it's just one day a week. And that way I know if I trust in the personal trainer that I choose and I like them, I don't want to disappoint them. I might still be open to disappointing myself, but I won't disappoint them. And so discipline is built over time, and it does, like, you don't have, most of us aren't automatically really disciplined. In fact, I used to tell myself how many bad habits I had, how undisciplined I was. And it wasn't 100% true, but in my own mind, that's what I kept telling myself. And so each time I would work towards something I thought was important, I would quit on myself. And part of that was because I didn't have the right framework in place. And so discipline so I'm giving a long-winded answer on this, but
No.
I think it's really important, because even this year, like, I've realized I need to go up another level in discipline. And, and within that, I understand how to do it. And so I've done it the right way. So I've built it slowly, So I've worked out what's the number one thing that I feel is hindering my ability to expand and grow where I need to. And I've taken control of that. And I've got other things as, weeks and months go by that I'll start to introduce. So once that's locked in, because discipline is about creating a habit that is formed in the subconscious where you no longer have to really think about it or think, oh, you might wake up and go, I don't really feel like doing it. But because you're disciplined, because you're used to doing it, you just automatically do it because that's how the subconscious works.
Yeah.
We all have programs, not just for discipline, we all have programs that, even to get up and how we dress ourselves that are done a certain way because we programmed it that way. And it's good because we don't want to have to think about everything that we have to do,
Yeah.
minute ways of thinking. And so discipline is a beautiful form of self-love. And if you do it, there's a great book by James Clear. It's called Habit Stacking, the formula that he does. And so it's a great way a simple way of understanding. Start with one habit that's important. And then once you've got that locked in, you then add another one on top. And you just keep adding on top as you move along.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the framework in building strong discipline. And you might fall or you might go backwards. That's okay, but don't beat yourself up. Get yourself back up and then start moving again. Yeah. Anyway, I love
It's
this.
interesting that you say it's, that framework, because I think even in business, in personal life, it's all about the strategy that you have that's going to get the outcomes that you want. For me, last year, I got a personal trainer because I wanted to lose that weight. I went through a lot of health problems last year, which made it a little bit harder. But, having that somebody there, not telling you what to do, but giving you everything, it's you now. It's in your hands to take that to the next level. It's about being disciplined on that strategy to really implement it and get the outcomes that you're wanting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Do you know, I just want to add one other thing on to what you said, because we're all going to have, we're going to make a decision or a commitment is what I look at for decision.
Yeah.
We make the commitment towards what we want to do. We hire the trainer and then we get the health issues. And then what tends to happen is when we've got things that are unexpected, we build them up as our excuse and we use them as our reason to why we can't follow through.
Yeah.
And it makes us feel better because when we're explaining to someone why we didn't do it,
Yeah.
I'm not saying about you, by the way, just using this as an example. For all of us, we have this monkey mind, right? And so as soon as we're trying to move with this discipline or this commitment that we've made, the monkey mind kicks in. Like I think about it, the easiest one to think about for me is running. I do run, but I don't consider myself a runner. I don't necessarily enjoy running, but I know it gets me the result. I know it gets me the outcome that I'm looking for in a very short space of time. And so I get to a certain point where I start to feel my knees are a bit sore and my breath is too heavy and whatever the excuses are that pop up. And I have to say to myself, and this might be a good tool for you, not just for running, but for anything, whenever you're starting to imagine the future and imagine why you can't do something, I say to myself, did I say I'm going to do this? Is this important to me? Yes, it is. Just be in the now, like be in the present. And so I remind myself, like with running as the example, I'll remind myself to just focus on my breathing. Just focus on my breathing. Just look in front of me. Don't think about how far have I got to go. Just look in front of you and breathe and concentrate on your breathing. A bit like meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a good tool for anyone.
Yeah.
Because we all suffer from it. Even no matter how far ahead you are with success and freedom, I guarantee the monkey mind is always going to kick in because the subconscious is the reason why the monkey mind kicks in.
Yeah.
There's a program that's running that the subconscious knows how to run. It's automatic. And here we are trying to introduce this new thing and it's going, no, I don't have a program that runs that. What are you doing? And so then it tries to give us reasons why we need to stop, get back to the old program.
Yeah. And I think when you mention about how we bring up like those excuses, although I was going through that, it was an excuse I was using. Oh, I don't feel, I'm too tired. I can't go to the gym.
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to go today. I'm not going to go to the gym. And obviously there was days where I was like, I feel great, I can go to the gym, I can do this, but it wasn't consistent. And not having that consistency isn't going to bring me the results that I'm wanting.
No. Yeah. And I think that's a great point because, that's why I'm saying I'm not trying to diminish your excuses,
No.
but for all of us, we can have very valid excuses why. Now, of course, if you're in a hospital bed, of course, that's probably a extreme one, but we're all going to have different things that are going to hinder our commitment to ourselves. And so I think, we have to, because at the end of the day, if you are unwell, you don't want to burn yourself out. So I'm not suggesting just override
Yeah.
what the body actually needs. But I think for a lighter decision, like go back to the running for the example, you're getting to a certain point. Let's say you're at 3 kilometers and you said you're going to do 5, but your knees are sore and, and you're feeling like you're out of breath, and you just got to say to yourself, is it important that I make this decision to do 5 kilometers? Is my body actually going to break down? No, I don't think so. Okay, let's just keep going. And so I think that's the tool that I use, that I know helps me to be more disciplined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we get to that certain point where it gets hard. Then instead of breaking through the hardness, we go, oh, I can't do this. I'm done. And we walk away from it rather than, like you said, take the time to focus on your breathing, or, if you're running, whatever it may be, to break through that path, break through that hard part to get to the end, to
Yeah.
end goal.
Yep.
Because I think for me, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Why would I lie to myself?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's why I say discipline is self-love. Because if you can keep your commitment to yourself,
Yeah.
you're saying you matter or I matter.
Mm.
I'm keeping my commitment to me. And if you keep your commitment to you, there's another saying, which is the way you do one thing is usually the way you do everything.
Do everything. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
And so if you're not keeping your commitment to yourself, the likelihood is you're probably not going to keep your commitment to everyone else.
Yeah.
So the reason I mention about decision and commitment, I remember when I first started the journey for myself, I recognized that making a decision, I would break my commitment all the time. For you, for me, for it wouldn't matter. And as the example, even on this, I made a decision that if I made a decision, no pun intended, I made a decision that if I make a decision, it is a commitment.
Yeah.
And I can't break it. Unless it's like life and death, I have to keep it. And as the example, the one thing that I had a really good habit of, I would make an appointment to catch up with you on Friday. We're going to have a couple of drinks. And then Friday would come around and be like, oh, I don't really feel like it. I'm a bit tired. I want to go home. I don't want to catch up. And I make up some BS excuse, not my initials. I make up some BS excuse and I would, quit on us catching up. And so I made a decision that I'm going to follow through no matter what. And there were so many times when I first started this that I really did not want to do it. This is discipline, is what I've heard, is the discipline isn't doing something when you feel like doing it. The discipline is when you don't feel like doing something, yet you still do it.
Yeah.
And here's the beauty for anyone watching. The thing that I recognize, especially on the catching up with friends, I would really not want to do it. I would even be telling myself, I just want to turn back. I don't want to go, in my head. Weird things going on in my head. And I would get there and I would go and have the catch up and it would be the best.
Yeah.
It would be the most incredible experience. So I found the more I was really wanting to quit on whatever it was, when I followed through, it was actually amazing.
Yeah.
So every time I now feel that feeling of, oh, I don't want to do it, I go, oh, it's probably going to be really good.
This is going to be fun. Yeah. Yeah. So what internal limits show up most often in your clients
Yeah. Okay.
that maybe we can tell the listeners some strategies, tools?
Okay. I had something before I was going to share, but I had too many thoughts going on. There's so much I can share. So what's the number one internal limit? I would say it's usually the history. Like we've all got a history, we've all got a past. And, here's the common theme is, yeah, Chloe, I've tried that before and it didn't work.
Yeah.
I've tried that before. I used to say that all the time. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to be able to do that, but you don't understand. I've tried that before numerous times.
Yeah.
Now, when you dig a bit deeper on, I've tried that before, I'll say, okay, when you say tried, what do you mean by that? Like, what was that trying? And usually what I'd find, and I know within myself, let's say, I want to, like your commitment to, getting fitter
Mm.
or losing some weight. I would say, yeah, I tried to do that, but it didn't seem to work for me. Okay. How long did you do it? I did it for a few days. Okay. And do you think by doing a few days is going to get you the habitual, discipline to be able to get the result? Do you think maybe you didn't give yourself enough time? And the answer is usually, like, if they're going to be truthful, which they will be if they're working with me, they'll go, oh, yeah, maybe not. Okay. Well, would you be open to trying it a different way? And so I think the biggest thing that I've learnt, and actually this is the thing, the biggest thing I've learnt is changing perspective. If you can change the way you look at something, you can change the way you actually receive something. So when it comes to anything that I find is difficult, I'll say to myself, what if I looked at it a different way? Or can I look at it a different way? And so when we do look at something differently, it changes how it looks, or it changes the feeling. Like I mentioned just before about when I fear, or not even fear, when I really feel that I just really don't want to go. Like, I'm tired. I make up all these excuses in my mind, but yet I know I've made a commitment. My decision is my commitment, and I follow through. And so now my mind doesn't have a program that continually, is negative. It's like, oh, I'm feeling negative, but my history, or my past experiences show me that actually by following through, I'm getting this incredible outcome every time, every time. So I'd say, if people can understand that if they change their perspective or their view on something, and if you can't do it, maybe ask someone else their opinion or their viewpoint, get different people's ideas about something. Because and this is the open mind thing we said at the start, your ability to change the way you look at things and your ability to open up your mind gives you an ability to achieve and receive things you've never achieved or received before. Actually, here's the other thing I'm going to say. This is a really, really important tool. So, and it's a perspective. So when you think about building muscle, when you think about building muscle in the gym, do you think it's, I'll just do 2 sets of 5 reps on a weight that feels pretty good that I can do? Do you think that builds muscle?
Mm-mm.
No.
Most definitely not.
When you think about building muscle, what do you think has to happen for you to build muscle?
You have to push yourself. You have to break through that, that hardness.
Yeah. So when you break through the hardness, would you say that, like, and because I used to be a personal trainer, by the way, I used to run a gym. So I'm using these fitness ones because I think they're so relatable to life. They're relatable to
100%.
business. So when we think about growing muscle, as an example, the only way you grow muscle is through pain. The only way you grow as a human, the only way you achieve things that you really want to achieve that you've never achieved before, you have to grow. And if you're going to grow, it's going to be painful. It's going to be uncomfortable. And so what I've done over the years, and actually probably in the first year, but I keep strengthening this. It's the number one thing for everyone. And this is part of the training that I definitely do with people. Because I'll say, oh yeah, Brett, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I'm not really comfortable doing that. I go, good. That's good. It's good you're not comfortable. That's how you're going to grow. If it's easy, if it's comfortable, I promise you, you are not going to grow. Yeah. And it's the same with goal setting.
Yeah. My dad actually used to tell me, you grow through what you go through. Yeah. That was one of the sayings growing up when I went through hard periods. When I was younger, I used to be like, oh, and I used to be very emotional and blah, 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 blah. And he'd say, sit down, just, relax for a second, breathe, because you grow through what you go through. You're going to go through this and you're going to become this whole different person after, this pain.
Yeah. He's right. Yeah. So he's a wise man.
He is.
And he just had a birthday, didn't he?
Yeah, it was his
Yep.
birthday 3 days ago, I think. Yeah, 3 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next thing I wanted to touch on was tall poppy syndrome in Australia, because this is something that's huge in Australia, in my personal opinion, especially coming from the UK, where I think the UK is a bit more forward thinking.
Yeah.
In Australia, when you get everybody wants to see you succeed until you get to that certain point and you're maybe doing better than them, and then it's a case of, oh, and they look away or they don't help, or what do you think about that?
Do you know, interestingly, I'm emceeing an event for a movie premiere called Tall Poppy, so interesting that you're touching in on that. Tall poppy syndrome is is we can talk about it in two ways. So the first way that you're asking, I would say absolutely people, they want you to succeed when you're down in the not down in the dumps, but when
At the
you
start, yeah.
when you're really nowhere, they go, "Oh yeah, you can do it. Come on," and then you actually do it, and you do it better than they ever expected. What happens, I think, internally for a lot of people, and it's conditioning, is that they go, "Oh, well, how did he do that? And he must have done something illegal, or
Yeah.
he or she must have done something that, and then they think, I think that the subconscious thing is that they don't believe they could do it. And therefore they cut them down. Oh, you're big. You're so big now. You're so successful. Am I meant to bow down to you? And look, it may not be that exaggerated, but I think it does happen to a point, or people talk behind people's backs. But here's the other version. The smaller version is that we're we're all going, like, if we get to a certain point, like in the work I do, where we go, "Oh, I'd like to actually do something different." Well, what happens is most of us have family. We might have parents, we might have kids, we might have a partner. And when you decide to make this shift, it's not that they don't want you to do it, and it's not they don't believe you can do it. It's more that they think about themselves unconsciously that they would never do that, or they could never do that. And therefore, oh, you should be really careful. I know, Uncle Gary tried that and it didn't work out for him. He probably tried for a few days. And so I think there's a tall poppy syndrome from a very small scale as well. So it's not just once we become super successful with lots of money and all the houses and cars. It's even on a level of changing what you're doing career wise, or moving to a place that separates you from family. So making decisions, I think, is a part where people get stuck because they're so worried about what people think, rather than saying, what's really important for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when you're in anything, you need to do things for yourself, not for other people's, what they're going to think, what they're going to say about you. You need to do things for yourself. If you constantly think about what other people are saying or thinking about you, you're just going to end up going backwards or stuck in the same place, in my opinion.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Most people, they're not thinking about you.
No.
Most people are thinking about themselves. And the people who might be saying things about you in a horrible, let's call them social media trolls, they're probably really depressed with their own life. It's really not about you. And so I remind myself of that because I did have an experience where I had some high level trolls when I put my TED talk out. And, and it really hit me at first. And then again, with perspective, I purposely changed my perspective and I said, well, it's actually boosted my numbers on my TED talk, even if it's negative talk. And it's allowed me to get it out to more people.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually a great talk. My business coach who helped me with it, he thinks it's a great talk and he's a great speaker. I know he wouldn't lie to me. And so, so I think it's a point of really understanding that, like you said, you've got to work out what's important for you and you've got to keep your commitment to yourself. And then you'll be surprised with what actually happens.
Yeah. Awesome. So what's the one piece of advice that you would give to someone who knows they need to shift their mindset, but they feel stuck right now?
The first thing I would say is there's two parts to it. So number one, I think people have to get to a point where it's not so much about being ready, but they've got to get to a point where enough is enough. To make proper change or real transformation, life needs to be a little bit unsure, a little bit, a, li- a little bit, sorry, a little bit. Let me go
Sorry.
back one step.
Yeah.
Life has to be a little bit messy,
Yeah.
to the point where the person goes, I really need to make this shift and this change. And then the next part is asking for help. And this is why I do the work I do. And so these days, more often, it's people coming to me and asking for help, which is great. But I'll say to anyone that the number one thing that held me back was thinking that I could figure it all out. We don't have all the answers. And so when you can't figure out how to move forward, ask someone that you trust, or ask someone that you already see is successful, already doing the thing that you want to do, and then get some ideas or some advice, and then move forward with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'd say.
Awesome. Well, I hope the listeners found some value out of that. Where can they find you to, follow along with the journey?
My website's a little neglected, but it's still fairly up to date. So that's superchargedfreedom.com or brettdscott.com. But on social media, the ones I'm probably the most active on are Facebook and Instagram. Both of them are at the Brett Scott, the Brett Scott, both with double T's. Scott being Scottish, like this Scottish beauty. So yeah, pretty easy to find. And if you can't find me,
I'll link it all down below.
yeah.
Everything will be linked down below. So you guys can give him a follow along for the journey. And really just listen to what the powerful things you have to say. Because I love seeing the posts that you post
I
on your
appreciate it.
Instagram.
Yeah, and I even did funny enough, I did a reel or a post the other day and said, look, you may never work with me and that's okay, but my purpose isn't just about getting clients. My purpose is actually to make positive impact with people, and that might be that you just get some ideas and some tips and you implement them. Great.
Yeah.
I've done my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So next week on the Adonis Effect, I'm joined by Telferetti, an international DJ who went from juggling multiple jobs and late nights to building a profitable career that now takes him all around the world. We're going to unpack the reality behind that journey, the sacrifices that people don't see, and how he turned his passion into a sustainable business. So if you're chasing a dream and you want the truth about what it really takes, then you don't want to miss this episode. Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.